Exercises again. The steps to diminish both the amount of anger you have and the degree to which the anger runs your life are these. 1. Transform your relationship to anger by agreement. And 2. Change your experience of anger through awareness. Awareness is what causes change, not a moral resolve to be better. A little earlier in this chapter, I gave you some exercises and you probably chickened out. Here is another chance. These exercises are just suggestions. You don't have to do them, and they may be useful just at certain times when you are stuck with how to get over your anger. Agreement to experiment with anger. Get with some friends or your spouse and members of your family old enough to read this chapter. Read this chapter. Meet afterward and make an agreement to experiment for 10 days with telling the truth about your resentments to each other, as a method of support for each other. Agree that for 10 days, all resentments may legitimately be expressed. That doesn't mean they all have to be acted on. For example, if one of you says, "I resent you for parking in front of the driveway and I demand that you move your car," the offender doesn't have to move the car. All he has to do is hear the resentment. When the going gets rough, if it does, keep in mind that the exercise is to go on for 10 days. Have a conversation in a group about anger. Get a group of friends together and start an ongoing group to support each other for a while in learning about how to handle anger. Start by asking them to read this chapter and talk about it in the group. Ask for help from friends. If you are stuck at not being able to make the arrangements to meet someone to express and get over your anger because you are too cowardly or the person won't meet with you, or if you get stuck during the meeting, ask a third party in. Get a mutual friend to mediate. Ask both of your friends, the one you resent and the one you ask to help, to read this chapter. Further exercises. For further exercises, read John O. Stevens' book, Awareness, Exploring, Experimenting, Experiencing, particularly the 3 exercises entitled Guilt, Resentment, and Demand. Guilt. Those situations in all of our lives where we feel that terrible feeling of having done something bad and been caught, of having made a real mistake and feeling bad about it, don't seem to be related to anger at all. You just feel bad. When you feel your way through the experience by facing it, anger will show up, and your power to get over the guilt comes from facing every detail and every imagined catastrophe. Anger shows up when you examine your guilty feeling, because guilt, when it was first learned, came from instances of what Fritz Perls calls projected resentment. When you were a child, you were powerless, and you sometimes got mad at the adults who made you do some things and wouldn't let you do other things. When you were mad at them and you made a mistake, you knew they would get you for. You felt very bad. If you were mad at the big person who was going to be mad at you, and you had to deny your anger or else make things even worse, you felt even guiltier. You imagined they would be very mad at you, based on denying that you were mad at them, and as an attempt to keep them from punishing you too bad, you punished yourself. If you were hard enough on yourself, you might have escaped some of their wrath, and if you learned to control your terrible self so your anger toward them didn't show, you might likewise have avoided their wrath. Better to be punished by yourself than by them. So when you feel guilty, check to see if some of the anger you imagine on the part of the offended party is, in fact, your anger toward them. Mistakes are often made in the first place out of anger. People who are perennial fuck-ups are usually angry people. Meditation. If you are willing to confront your anger in all of the ways I have discussed, and if you are not using meditation to avoid acknowledging and expressing anger, then meditation works. Meditation can increase your satisfaction and decrease your anger. If you want your anger to decrease noticeably in a relatively short time, and if you are willing to do all of what I have discussed so far, meditate regularly. You will gradually become noticeably less angry as who you consider yourself to be changes to include your experience of just sitting quietly. You will become more familiar with yourself as the noticer, You will gradually become less attached to yourself as a personality. I recommend transcendental meditation. TM instructors are great at teaching meditation. Don't take any of their advice about anger. Review and summary. These exercises and guidelines for expressing resentment and appreciation are for your use in discovering how to let the experience of anger work itself out. These rules of thumb are suggested as substitutes for your usual methods of controlling anger. They are intended to assist you to experience your anger more intensely and publicly, so you will have a better chance of getting over being angry. You may get angry at me because, after following the guidelines, you will feel like you are more angry than you used to be. When this occurs, consider the possibility that you are not angrier, but are simply experiencing anger more. Then see for yourself if you get a result that works better than your former methods of control. If not, you don't get your money back. Here is a quick review of the rules of thumb about anger. Whenever possible, talk face-to-face to the person with whom you are angry. Start your sentences as often as possible with the words, "I resent you for," or "I appreciate you for." Speak in the present tense. Eventually, get specific. Don't stop with general descriptions of behavior or general judgments. Focus as much as you can on what did happen instead of what didn't happen. Stay in touch with your experience as you talk. Stay there with the person beyond the time it takes to exchange resentments. After you both have fully expressed your specific resentments, state your appreciations the same way. Keep it up. Why do all this? Being honest about anger puts you on the road back home to being alive, like you were as a child, instead of a mind deadened by what you have learned to lie about. Telling the truth about your anger is a way to get back to your experience of being, where you love yourself and therefore have something left over with which to love someone else. Revealing the withheld judgments and feelings you have hidden out of politeness and your protection racket is the difference between a life lived in hate and a life lived in love. Coming forth with your anger will give you your life back. It is a way to feel complete and not be in need of someone else to make you be whole. It is one of the ways back to the path of the light that enlightens the light. That light of being that first clicked on in the womb and which is still humming right along now, even as we speak. That is one reason. Here is one more. The survival of humankind depends on it. What is in this chapter on anger is the key to the undoing of the destructive effects of civilization itself. Civilization is a problem like having a mind is a problem. Civilization and being civil is the source of war as well as personal alienation.